Imagine all your audio entertainment available in just one place. That's what the Audible app is all about. With Audible, you can always find the best of what you love or discover something new. Audible has an incredible selection of wellness titles and originals, like The Light Podcast by Michelle Obama, Work It Out by Mel Robbins, and Confidence Gap by Russ Harris. Membership includes access to Audible originals, podcasts, and tons of audiobooks that you can download or stream as much as you want. And as an Audible member, you can choose one title per month from an ever-growing catalog of titles to keep. The Audible app makes it easy to listen anytime, anywhere, whether you're traveling, working out, doing chores, wherever your day takes you. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/motivation or text motivation to 500-500. That's audible.com/motivation or text motivation to 500-500 to try Audible free for 30 days.
How are you, man?
I'm excellent. Yes, very good.
You are looking like Brock Lesnar again?
I shaved it all off, but it's a couple of days ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I usually don't let it go that long. It is a different look. I didn't realize that. I looked in the mirror and I was like,
yeah. You kind of look like a Marine, like a drill sergeant.
Yeah.
What's going on? What's up for your holidays?
My oldest son and his wife went down to Naples, Florida to spend like 3 or 4 weeks with her family. And they're planning on spending Christmas there. But they're very much like I am, where they love to be at their home. So they finally left. There it is, Frank Simonetti.
2 hours and done.
Good morning.
What's happening, Mr. Simonetti? How are you?
Every day feels like Christmas, and it just so happens Christmas is coming, so it's a win-win.
You're always in a good mood, too.
I hope to be.
Yeah. So there's Tom Smith.
Hi, Tom.
How are you, Frank? Nice to meet you.
He's on a stool there because he's a little short, so.
Hold on. He's a Frank, how tall are you?
6'1".
Okay, so you're over 6 feet. Anyone under 6 foot, Tom's a real bully towards. I don't know what he's like, a height bully. I'm 5'10", not 5'4".
Well, who was I picking on about your weight too? We were on the show.
Grant Ledyard. No,
Dallas Drake was on. We were talking about Keith Tkachuk.
Yes, you were.
Yeah,
that's a Boston guy. Are you guys from the same town? You and Keith Tkachuk? Is he from Melrose, Frank?
I don't think he's from Melrose. No, he's from the South Shore.
He's put on some tonnage.
Well, I'm glad this is shot from the shoulders up here, because
you're not. You're in shape. You're not bad.
I don't get up at 3 whatever in the morning like you do.
I know, it's a sickness now.
That's because you're sane.
Yes, I enjoy my sleep and I do it well.
It is funny because people say that's the middle of the night, Tom.
Well, the question is, what time do you go to bed?
You know what? I don't need much sleep. I'll go to bed at 10 or 11. My ritual now is just without anything going on. I'll sit outside on my back deck, even when it's cold. You get bundled up. I get a little heater out there. Have myself a little cocktail, and I'll fall asleep for I can't drink anymore, so I have one cocktail and I fall asleep for a little while, and that's it. Then I'll go to bed. All right.
He's nuts.
So
Frank.
we're gonna.
Frank, he's nuts. Don't even try to explain it. He's nuts.
Tom Smith, you're up.
Let's roll.
This is Full Change with Tom Laidlaw.
Good morning, Tom. We got a great show today. We have on a guest who came out of Melrose, Mass., lived the dream, played for the hometown Bruins, and is now the current director of alumni relations, Frank Simonetti.
Francois, how are you?
I'm doing great, Tom. Great to see you, and great to see you, Mr. Tom Smith. Nice to meet you.
We don't know if that's his real name or not, Tom Smith. Like, that's kind of one of those names, like, somebody just like threw it in there.
Well, when you sent it over to me, I almost said, "Yeah, right, Tom Smith."
Yeah, right. I know. It's probably like in the witness protection program or something like that.
I have a past. I can't. Let's move on to the next subject. Can't talk about this.
Frank. So Frank and I met each other. We played against each other, right? We were in the same time frame.
We did. I played in the late '80s.
Yeah. Okay. And then Frank and I met. We had a charity alumni game between the Rangers and the Bruins. What was that? Like 3 or 4 years ago now? Before the
It
pandemic.
was 2019. It was the coming out party for the Warrior for Life Fund. Yes.
That's right too. That was great. So we had the night before the game up in Boston. We had a nice dinner. A lot of Navy SEALs were up there. I was in like dreamland because I'm big on the Navy SEAls. And then we had a game. So we had a game the next night in Boston. Then we came back down to Madison Square Garden, played a game. That was a fun time. That's Frank met each other, and then we got involved with the Warrior for Life Fund. I was on the board there for a little while. So you're still actively involved in that, right?
Yeah, and we've really elevated the program. But just to talk about that game a little bit, Tom, and we call it the Face Off for Heroes game.
Right.
It was kind of the rebranding of the therapeutic hockey program that's happening down in Virginia Beach that services the Naval Special Warfare community, more commonly known as Navy SEALs. Okay, and we had a back-to-back game, Boston and Madison Square Garden. But the fun thing about that was we integrated 7 active duty Navy SEALs across both teams. And, for the record, for the scorekeepers out there, the Ranger alumni took it to us in Boston here. I think it was 6-3 or something. By the way, we had 7 Hall of Famers in the building, several on the ice, several behind the bench coaching. So it was kind of a big deal for all of us, for players, for the SEALs that got to play. Then we all got on buses and went down to New York City to play in Madison Square Garden the following day before the Bruins and the Rangers faced off. And that was a much better game for the Bruins alumni. We took it to you guys in your home rink, but even though it was a competitive game, there was smiles on everybody's faces, and to see the joy that these military guys had when they stepped out on the ice in Bruin or Ranger uniforms was priceless.
Yeah, I know. We told the story before. You and I were talking about it, where there's one guy I got to be friends with. I won't mention his name, but he's Navy SEAL, big kid. He's from Connecticut. And, so he's obviously been over in battle and everything, and they tell stories about some of the stuff he's done, the bravery and everything. And we're lining up for the national anthem on the blue line. He's standing beside me. He goes, "Tom, I'm really nervous." I'm thinking, it makes sense, because he's out there at the end of the show, guys, but think of all the stuff that he's done. It's pretty cool. Yeah, that was good. That was a fun weekend. The funny thing was, too, so we were beating you guys pretty good in Boston. Ray Bork's playing, and now you can see the competitive juices get going a little bit in Ray. And he wants to score. And Darius Kasparaitis and I are playing defense together. So we figure, okay, we'll let him go through, and then he can go in and score. Well, Steve Valiquette's playing net, and he thought it was like Stanley Cup Finals, and he stoned Ray Bork and wouldn't let him score from going to a safe Valley. And he was just out of his mind. He said, "I'm sorry, geez, I just got carried away."
Yeah, he played a great game that day, but I think he pulled both groins. So the next day he was like a pylon in that, which helped our cause tremendously.
It's funny. We talked about Kenny Linsman too. So I really just met Kenny as a person to person at that weekend. Obviously, we played against each other. Everybody hated Kenny when you're playing against him, but like you were saying, he's a fantastic teammate. But in the second game, the one in Madison Square Garden, he hurt his knee, and we're all laughing like couldn't happen to a better guy. So totally unfair to him because he is a great guy.
Great guy. Fortunately, it wasn't a career ending. He's back on the ice. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy's the best for die laugh.
Does he still get hate?
No, not in our alumni games, but we're playing the Philadelphia Flyer alumni on January 26th at the Wells Fargo Center.
Oh,
now he played for Philly and he played for Boston, so he's with us. It'll be interesting to see if there's any reaction when he gets on the ice, though.
That's funny. Those alumni games are a good time, right? Like even if you haven't, like you and I, we never played with each other, but it's like we knew each other all our lives, right? Everybody gets together. So,
well, that's the wonderful thing about the hockey community. Is once you're in the locker room, you've all had shared experiences.
Yeah.
And you know each other. It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, that game where you played with this guy, I played with that guy over here, there, and you start talking, telling stories, and all of a sudden an hour or two have gone by, and you walk out of there best friends.
Yeah, totally. And Dave Silk plays with you guys too, right? He participates.
Silky does. I saw him on Saturday night at the Bruins game. He doesn't play with us much, but he committed to coming out again and skating because he's such a great guy, one.
Yeah.
And the fans absolutely love him for, the 1980 gold medal, but just being an awesome all-around guy and a local guy.
Yeah. We lived together, and we had him on the show, and we started telling some of the old stories, some of the stupid things we did, and we were just dying laughing. And like, it's one of those things you look at, did we really do something like that? Did that? And so, yeah, we did it.
Well, I think Silky stopped doing some of those things.
Yeah.
So it's all good there.
Yeah, he was funny. Like part of his, he's got through therapy and everything he's talked about, but part of his thing was he had to call up people from his past and kind of apologize for some of the things he did. And he started saying the stuff he did. And I said, Silky, I'm sorry, but I don't even remember that stuff. So
Well, maybe you need therapy, Tom.
yeah, well, there's no question there. There's no question. Tom knows that.
Oh, he definitely does. He definitely does.
Well, it's funny with Tom here as the producer. He's been a big hockey fan, but really never been around NHL players a lot. And we've done close to 80 shows now. We've done.
We've done 80 shows. Exactly.
Yeah, and so we'll step back sometimes, especially early. We started doing the shows. He goes, "You guys are a mess." Like, other stories. Now, so where'd you go to school, or college?
I went to Norwich University. So from Stoneham High School, no prep schools, recruited up to Norwich University, which is a private military school in Northfield, Vermont. So it's about an hour south of Burlington. Small school. Our graduating class was just under 300. That's the kind of size this was. Division II, and then I went to Division III. So we didn't play the BUs, BCs, or we just played smaller colleges like Plattsburgh State and Colby and the like. So a lot of things had to break my way to get noticed and get an invite to Bruins camp.
All right, but you were not drafted.
Undrafted. When I look back now, the Bruins had a history of inviting a couple of local players to camp for a little local flavor, get a few ads in the articles in the paper. So I forget the other guy that was brought in, but it was myself and another player. And you skate the first couple of days of camp, and then you get invited to the rookie game. You get to go play the Hartford Whalers down there, and they did pretty well. And then come back to Boston and play a couple more practices. And then the Bruins are going on their first preseason road trip to Rochester and Lake Placid to play the Sabres back to back. And Jerry Cheevers was the coach. He's kind of old school. So he pinned the roster up on the bulletin board, and I just walked right past. Everybody's hovering around it. Somebody grabs me by the shoulder and says, "Simonetti, you're going on the trip."
Oh.
So as a free agent walk-on Division III guy, kind of blew me away. And immediately I said, "Oh, bleep." And I walked into Jerry Cheever's office. Said, hey, coach. He goes, "Hi, Frank." The happy guy that he is. I said,
yeah.
He goes, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, I have a problem." He goes, "Well, what's your problem, Frank?" I said, "My sister's getting married tomorrow. And I'm going on the trip." He goes, "Well, what time's the wedding?" 10 o'clock, whatever it was. He goes, "Do you think you can make the airport by 1 o'clock?" I said, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "Well, we'll hold the plane for you." All right. Wow. So apparently I went to my sister's wedding. No recollection, zero, none. They're still married, so I know it was real. Well, so I'm not late, but I'm the last guy on the plane. Right. And, the veterans, they don't care. The younger guys are going, "Who the hell is this guy?" Right. Yeah. And, of course, I got some good-natured jabs and whatnot. But anyway, went on those two games, did very well, played in 9 of the 11 preseason games that year, which was kind of unheard of for an American rookie free agent. And you'll like this piece, Tom. The last game of the preseason was in Providence, Rhode Island. We're playing the 4-time defending Stanley Cup champion New York Islanders. I signed my contract on the bus on the way down.
Wow.
Score the winning goal in overtime.
Wow.
Like, this is easy. I'm thinking to myself, wow, this just all came naturally. And all along the way, I'm asked, they're sending guys to the minors, they're releasing guys, sending them back to juniors. I don't know anything from a training camp. Never been to one, never talked to anyone who's been to one. And all this stuff is happening, and I'm just keeping my head down. I finally asked the trainer, I said, well, where do I go? He goes, "Well, you made the team." And he was like, whoosh, right? Yeah. So, okay, we practiced a couple times at the Garden, which is a real hoot for me.
Yeah. And
the team played each year they played a golf tournament down on the South Shore. So I'm out there, I'm the celebrity in the group, and this golf cart comes driving out to my hole. This girl goes, "Are you Frank Simonetti?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Mr. Sinden would like you to call him." I go, "Oh, this can't be good, right?"
Yeah.
So I go out and I find a payphone, which I have to describe to kids what that is.
Yeah.
So I call up and they said, "Frank, you had a really good training camp, but we've had a little change of heart. We're going to send you down to Hershey for some seasoning." I'm going, oh, you're so high, then you're so low.
Sure.
Days later, it was funny because it was a Philadelphia Flyer owned team, the Hershey Bears, and the Bruins rented like 7 spots.
Right.
And we didn't get to play much. I mean, there were games that the coach would say, "Oh, sorry, guys. Forgot you were down at the end of the bench there." I'm going, wow, is this hockey life, right?
Yeah.
But fortunately, I was called up just before training camp. They had to trade some guys on one-way contracts to make some room, and then somebody got hurt. So I came up, played the Montreal Canadiens two nights before Christmas. In fact, it would be 39 years ago this weekend, and had 6 shifts, and they were awesome. I remember them vividly. I remember chasing down and catching Guy Lafleur. Now, he was on the tail end of his career, but I don't tell too many people that. And Tom Johnson comes up to me after the game, and he goes, he's a cigar. Hey, kid, how'd you think you did? I said, TJ, I thought I did pretty well. He goes, me too. Well, now we go home for Christmas, which I live there anyway. Come back afterwards, and I'm in the same position I was at the end of training camp. Where do I go and what do I do?
Right.
Training goes, grab a dozen sticks. You're going on the road trip to the West Coast.
Wow.
We spent 14 days out there, and then I stayed up the rest of the season. And that was my introduction to the NHL.
And it's funny too. Like, and I went through the same thing. The coaches and GM hardly ever talk to you, right? Like, you had to find out from the trainer. That's just the way it was back then. Yeah.
Right.
And
now there's 12 coaches.
Yeah.
Every position, every this and that. You probably can't walk 5 feet without talking to a coach now.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have big meetings all the time and everything, talk about your feelings, and it's like they didn't worry about our feelings too much back then.
Yeah.
Especially that. So Jerry Cheevers was the head coach at that time.
Cheesy was the head coach. So I thank him all the time when I see him for bringing me into the league.
Sure.
And I thank Harry too, because it wouldn't have happened without him, obviously. But in February, late February that year, we were bouncing around 500, and Cheesy was relieved of his duties while we were on another West Coast swing in Los Angeles. And who took over? Harry Sinden. So we had a few days off out there, Tom, because so guys were enjoying themselves, and we got to the practice the day Cheesy got fired, and guys were still feeling pretty good, if you know what I'm trying to say. The practice was sloppy, and after 10 minutes, Cheesy said, "Okay, guys, that's it. Come home. I mean, go back to the hotel. Come back tomorrow, ready to go." Right.
Yeah.
So, this is like day 4 now. Guys are in a roll. Some of us heard about 6 o'clock at night that Cheesy was no longer the coach.
Oh.
Some didn't. Some came to the practice the next day in the same condition they were the day before. But the difference being, now the GM is your coach.
Right.
It was the most crisp 45-minute practice I've ever been part of. It was like bang, 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 boom, boom. Harry said, "Perfect, great." We went out 2 nights later and beat the Kings. So loved Cheesy as a coach.
Yeah.
Cheesy was, I love him as a person, but he was kind of a player's coach.
Yeah.
Harry was a detailed coach. He knew how to work egos, talk to guys, build them up, knock them down. He actually really worked with the players for that rest of the season to elevate the team and elevate each player a little bit. So he was a joy to be coached by.
Oh, that's interesting. I always thought like he was really old school. He just like kind of show up, blow the whistle, and that's it. So that's cool.
Not at all. Not at all. He was, I remember being on the bench, and he'd come over and say, "Look, in this situation, this is during a game, you want to think about doing this, you want to think about doing that." And he wasn't a yeller or a screamer on the bench that I recall.
Right. So what was your first year? Was 84 then?
It was 84.
It was like Terry Riley and those guys still playing?
Terry was there, Ray Bork, Rick Middleton, Barry Peterson, Pete Peters in net. Yeah. And I mentioned these guys, and they just had one of the Bruins Centennial Era Nights Saturday, and I hadn't seen Pete Peters since he was traded in 85. Right. And Pete was there, and Charlie Simmer was there, who came in 85. And it was a wonderful reunion, if you will. I haven't seen some of these guys in almost 40 years.
How about Steve Casper? Is he there?
Stevie Stevie coaches in Europe. I forget, or Eastern Bloc country. He's coached in Russia, and he's coaching, I think, in Estonia now in their professional league. So he goes over there for 6-7 months a year and coaches. We'll see him at the golf tournament that we do in the summer, and if he's around, we see him at the bowling tournament that I run in September. But I love Stevie. Stevie was on the team as well in '84.
Yeah, great guy. I played with him in L.A., but we call him the coach's man that's ever played in the NHL. He's got that look to him or whatever. He just walk around like he's in a bad mood every day.
He was a very intense and serious young man. Yes.
How about our friend Tom? How about our friend Nifty, or as we know him, Silky? Was Rick Middleton at that event?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Nifty was there. Nifty, he ran the Bruins Alumni for 15 years before I took over. We played together. Consummate gentleman on and off the ice. Took young players under his wing. I remember one time I got down late to the lobby when guys were going off to different dinners, and I'm a rookie, and there's Rick Middleton, in the league, had been in the league for 14 years or so at the time. And I said, Nifty, do you mind if I join you for dinner? Absolutely. So it was me and some of the other veterans that went out, and it was really nice to hear their stories and their perspectives, and learn a little bit about how to handle situations and treat people. That was the biggest thing I learned from the Terry O'Reillys and the Rick Middletons and Ray Boyds. They treat people well wherever they go.
Yeah, really is true. That is the great thing about hockey players. That reputation that they could be just animals on the ice, but when they're off the ice, they treat people really good, right? That's generally the way it is. Did you know Rick Middleton, his other nickname was Silky?
I did not know his nickname was Silky. Was that from his New York days?
Yes, his New York days. Tom, if I don't say this correctly, so he started to tell the story, and he said, I can't tell the story. And I think Tom jumped on and said, no, come on, you got to tell us the story. Went to a strip joint, and I was talking to one of the strippers and really getting along pretty well.
And her name was Silky. Her name was Silky.
And so then he found out that it was a male. Actually, was it a transvestite or?
It was a man.
Boy.
It was a male stripper dressed as a woman who was named Silky and had hair like Rick Middleton at the time, long blonde hair. So that was his nickname in New York.
Oh, it's funny. That was good by Tom, because he was going to stop telling the story, and then Tom jumped on and said, "No, you got to tell us. You got to tell us." He said, "Okay."
I can't wait to see Rick. About this thing. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, please do.
He was pretty funny when he was telling the story. Yeah.
Rick can tell stories with the best of them.
Yeah.
I always encourage him. I said, Rick, you need to write a book.
Yeah.
He says, I can't write the book the way it needs to be written because I'll burn way too many bridges and friendships. He said, okay, well, I get you there, because he enjoyed his early days as a professional hockey player. Yeah.
God, he was a good player too. Always when I played against him, he was like Joey Mullen, was the same way, where the puck would be bounced all over the place, and they go in and somehow score, and I'm going, God, he's lucky. But then he does it all the time. It's always the same way.
So speaking of Joe Mullen, he's a fixture now on our alumni team.
Yeah.
And 66 years old. He came on board about 3 years ago, and he just loves to play. Right. And he skates about 4 or 5 times a week now with his men's leagues and his friends. And it doesn't matter where we go. He lives on the Cape. If we're playing up in Maine, he says, yeah, I'll be there. Right. And he, at his age, he's doing the exact same things, Tom. He's always in the right spot. Yeah. He's always making the right play. He's always making the right pass or setting up somebody. And people say, oh, that's great puck luck. No, it's just being hockey savant.
Yeah, no question. We played against him one time. I think he was with Calgary at the time. I think that was it. And he was at the front of the net, so I'm figuring, okay, I'm going to scare this little guy. I'm cross-checking him in the back and hacking him and everything. So then he leaves, and I kind of go, okay, I got rid of him. I toughed him. And what he did was he'd go to the top of the slot, and whoever had the puck in the corner knew what was happening exactly. Got on the puck, he shot a one-timer and scored. And he kind of smiles at me. He was smart. Charlie Simmer, they mentioned like that. He was the same way too, a much bigger guy. But he'd come to the front and then he goes, Tom, how are you doing today? And you're trying to cross-check him when he's talking to you like he's your best friend, and then he scores a goal.
Not the fast. Neither one were the fastest guys out there, but they always arrived at the right time. Yeah.
Did Charlie Simmer get married to a Playboy model or something?
Terry Wells. She was so I'm told. Again, Norwich University only had so many things you could look at up there. The internet wasn't, so Playboy was much coveted.
Yeah.
Terry Wells was the playmate of the decade for the 80s.
Huh?
Yes. And he married Terry and Charlie married when they were out in L.A. Right. When he moved to Boston, Terry came with. And we were neighbors. We lived in the same town. So we would drive in and out of practices and games together. So we were close as families, and she was a very nice person. Like many hockey marriages, once hockey ends, maybe you can speak to that, Tom, too.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that.
Oh, yeah.
The couples go separate ways. So,
man.
Yeah.
We should not, a hockey player should never get married. There should be a rule in the National Hockey League that hockey players can't get married.
Well, I think athletes in general maybe shouldn't, but you know what? We're human too.
Yeah. Now, how about you? One marriage or you've?
I'm on 2 now. I'm guilty as well.
Yeah,
but sometimes you don't get it right the first time. I got it right the second time.
Good job. Nice.
There's hope for you, Tom. There's hope, Tom.
No, that again. I've had 2. That's it. That's enough. It is funny though when you're talking to hockey players, right? It's just a given that guys are divorced. We had Larry Melnick on a show, and he stayed married, and then another coachy guy there too. But he's been married. Like, how does he stay married and everybody else is getting divorced all the time?
Well, I mean, the comment at the time was some of the wives are used to you not being around.
Yeah.
And then when you're around all the time, it's like, whoa, who are you? Right? I don't know who you are. So
that actually happened to me, my first one. I thought when I was playing, we had a fantastic marriage. All of a sudden, I got done playing. We couldn't sit in the same room together. It was just
right.
It wasn't her fault. I'm not blaming her. It was just that's the way it was. All right. So the alumni, you had told me some interesting stuff. So you run the alumni for the Bruins there, and you said that some people will want to put on charity games, and you've got like a 10-page pamphlet, so to speak, to give to them how to do things.
Yeah, it's a game production guide, if you will. So pre-COVID, we were doing about 25 or so games a year.
Oh, wow.
COVID hit, everything went away. We played in empty buildings with masks on just to keep some continuity going with our recurring charity partners. But we've come out of COVID with a new game plan, working with Rick for a couple of years now with myself, and giving them a how-to guide as to how best to put on a game, how to fundraise, how to do raffles, auctions, how to fill out your roster, how to put some accountability to your players so that they just don't show up and play. They show up and they have to raise a certain amount of money to play in the game, so they have some skin in the game, if you will, to help. I mean, the goal here is not to beat the alumni. The goal is to raise money for your cause. And, there's always been a couple teams who they last year we had a team that brought in all a bunch of former pros, some NHL guys, but all AHL guys, and nobody raised any money. And it was a hammer and tong game. I mean, we hung on by the skin of our teeth. And it would have been fun 5 or 10 years ago to play at that level. Yeah. But now it's like, we all got to go to work the next day. I mean, there's that same adage that, we're here to help, not kill ourselves. But for the most part, teams are on board. We have the Massachusetts Down Syndrome Congress. We've played 19 years now. We are their biggest fundraising component, helping them raise over $2 million.
Wow. Good job.
In those 19 years. Another group, Why Me, Sherry's House, that does cancer care for for children with cancer and their families, helping them, get situated in the Worcester area, 14 years. We have other groups that have played 9, 10. So we have a lot of recurring partners, but this year, Tom, we have 30 games in the books.
Wow.
Which hit all 6 New England states. Plus, we're going into Jersey. We also went to Detroit, to Fraser, Michigan, to play the Red Wings alumni in September. So our brand is growing, and more importantly, this year we'll probably help charities raise collectively over $1 million.
Very good. That's excellent.
And it's a feel-good thing for us. I grew up here. It's great to give back to the community. So many guys who played in Boston, whether they are from here or not, mostly not, retire here because the hockey community is so strong. The Bruins take very good care of us. They provide us a suite in the garden. They help us with some cross-marketing with the Bruins Foundation and Bob Sweeney. We do a lot of events together. So it's a great place to transition from your playing days to your retired days. And if you correlate that with the military, Tom, the hardest part of getting out is not knowing what to do, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of pro hockey players suffer when they retire, military suffer. So the Bruins alumni and Rangers alumni, Canadiens alumni, Leafs alumni, very good programs, help these guys when they retire to move right into the familiar environment where they can go out and spend time together, spend time in the locker room, maybe have a cold, refreshing beverage after the game, but more importantly, help the community. So
that's good. That 30 games, that's good. So, and your so our alumni with the Rangers here is actually run by the Rangers. Yours is different. You get help from the Bruins, but basically the players, and particularly yourself, run the alumni, right?
Yeah, we're an independent 501c3. And I think if you look across the league, 80% of the alumni teams are independent, which in all have some working relationship with the parent club. We have to, because we're wearing the Spoke B that's licensed by the Bruins, licensed by the NHL. So we couldn't wear it if we didn't have their support. And that's the same for all the teams. So, excuse me, we're independent. We can do our own fundraising, our own sponsorships. The only coordination we do is to make sure we don't bring on a sponsor that competes with somebody the Bruins have signed on. There's a number of beer companies. Bruins have certain beer companies. We have to partner with them rather than bringing somebody new. That's kind of the easy example there. But, when I come across somebody that wants to support us, I go right to Cam Neely, who's been very, very good. Cam, we're thinking about doing this with this company. No problem, Frank, go for it. Or, gee, no, that one might be a conflict with some people we have under contract right now. So very good working relationship with Cam Neely, president of the Bruins. Great relationship with Bob Sweeney, the president of the Bruins Foundation, with Kerry Collins, the director of community relations for the Boston Bruins. So we have helped them maintain a great presence in the community, whether they're doing well, which they have been for the last 10 years, or maybe if they're having some down years, we're out there doing goodwill in the community, representing the Bruins.
Tom, we also should talk about Frank. Frank's also, he was humble before, but he's also was an outstanding soccer player and a javelin thrower, which is pretty fascinating.
Were you really?
You went deep.
How do you throw a javelin? How do you get say one day and say, oh, you know what, I'm going to throw this spear? Like, where does that come from?
Well, you're looking for something to do in the spring. You've had a soccer season in high school. You've had a hockey season. And the prospect of running the 400 or the 800 or the mile run was not something I wanted to do. So the field sports, the discus and the javelin were fun because you kind of go screw around in the different fields, throw the javelin, the discus, and other things. And I got fairly good at it. And it's really about technique. The strongest guys aren't necessarily the ones who throw it the farthest, but I did, I went to the library, and actually researched the proper way to throw. Because again, no internet back then. And I learned a few things that helped me deliver a better throw. And and it was fun because some of the meets came down to, if you come in first or second, we win the meet. If you don't, well, we lose. So the whole team's around us watching, and it was kind of a neat little pressure cooker.
Probably the first person I've ever met that threw the javelin. Wow, that's excellent.
Yeah. Side story. They always taught us, when if it's wet out there, approach the javelin from the side, because if you fall, you'll impale yourself. Okay. So one of our competing teams, Burlington, Mass, their best player was jogging up, and he slipped and went right through his abdomen, out his back, through his kidney, and he was impaled on his. So he lived to tell the story. But kids, don't try this at home, is what I'm trying to tell you.
I've always wondered about that. Like somebody gets stabbed with the spear. Wow.
So the Olympians, they throw that thing further than a football field.
Yeah,
300 and something feet. It's crazy.
Wow, that's funny. All right, so Warrior for Life Fund, that's a great cause. So it's run by some retired Navy SEALs, correct?
Yeah, so Captain Ryan Crowley, 26-year plus Navy SEAL, about 12 years ago when he was lieutenant commander and active, was stationed up in Newport, Rhode Island at the War College. Now, he had been a fan of hockey growing up, lived in Toledo, Ohio, big fan of the Detroit Red Wings, never skated before. He's up in Newport, has a lot of downtime. They had just built a brand new rink at URI. And he says, I'm going to teach myself how to play hockey. So he went out, bought equipment, joined the G League, moved up to the D League, and all the way. And over the course of a year or two, became a very good hockey player. But it was in that time in Newport that he realized that getting on the ice, skating, that 1 hour took him away from a lot of the demons he was facing, right, from having been deployed at the time was probably 10 times and in multiple battles and, all the things that go along with it, the TBI issues that he was suffering from. Getting on the ice helped him clear his head. That's the most easy way to put it. So when he was restationed down at Virginia Beach, he came charging in with this great idea. He was going to start skating in a little podunk hockey rink. I shouldn't say that. Small hockey rink, Iceland's Family Skating Center, which was a converted grocery store. Small, intimate. You've been there, Tom.
Yeah.
We'll call it an intimate hockey rink.
You're very diplomatic. You're good.
I'm trying like hell. Yeah. So he gets out there, and he's bringing in some of his teammates, his brothers, to skate. He says, you got to try this hockey thing. It really helps. Yeah. And now he has a group of guys skating, and he says, I'm going to formalize this. I'm going to create the Virginia Beach Hockey Club. In 1 or 2 times a week, we're going to skate. He reached out to the Navy SEAL Foundation. They thought it was a great idea. So he got some funding from them, and over the course of the year, they'd play once a week, twice a week. And if Ryan was deployed, one of his teammates would pick up his son and take him on the ice to make sure there was that parent figure, guiding him, coaching him. And when Ryan was back, he'd do the same for his brothers that were deployed. So it became a very family-oriented operation, and it grew, but grew slowly. And you're friendly with Tony Cabana.
Yep.
Tony got into them, introduced to them in probably 2015 after watching The Lone Survivor. He got all emotional about it, and he reached out, he Googled and said, Navy SEAL Foundation, called up the CEO who was resident down at Virginia Beach at the time. He says, I want to come down and talk to you about how we can help this community because it's new to me. I have never heard of them. And there's a hockey puck on the desk. And he says to the CEO, Robin King, well, what's that hockey puck? He says, we support a hockey program down the street in Virginia Beach. He goes, well, I'm a hockey player. I want to meet this guy. So Robin introduces him to Ryan. They hit it off. And I think at the time there was about $700 in the bank in their budget. And so they were living on a shoestring. And Tony came back. We subsequently met. He told me about it. He says, I'm going down in July of 2016 to skate in their Memorial game. This is what they do with hockey down there. Are you? I said, yes, I'm coming. He didn't even have to sell it to me. Yeah. I said, I definitely want to be part of this. I went to a military school. I had aspirations of possibly going into the military. At Norwich, it's a private school, so you make a choice at the end of your sophomore year. You either pursue the military or stay in the local ROTC program. Hockey was starting to bubble up, so I said, you know what, I won't go in. But I've always had a passion for the military and those who serve. So I went down. Bob Beers, played for the Bruins, is now their color commentator, and I went down. And we're down there to give these guys an experience, just having a couple of NHL guys on the ice and in the room. No. They treated us like rock stars. Yeah. We get down there. They say, hey, we're going to go over and visit some of the SEAL bases that no one gets to see unless you the congressman level or up. Yeah. Whoa. And then we go over to I-Fly Virginia Beach, run by an EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal guy, Bob Pizzini, I-Fly Virginia Beach. And you get in this wind tunnel, and you're skydiving in this wind tunnel. And that was amazing. They took us over here, they took us over there, and we're treated like we're something special. We're here it's like the Mutual Admiration Society.
Yeah, totally.
So the penultimate part of the weekend was we were going to play in their memorial game where they honor a couple of their brothers that were killed in action. The arena is closed off. So we go in the locker room, and it's all these team guys, mostly active duty, a couple of retired guys. And from the second we sat down, we were friends because their team room is like our locker room. Yeah. They get on each other, they poke each other, they're ripping each other, telling stories, having a good time. We get out on the ice, and it's these guys. It's their kids are out there. A couple of the wives are playing. And we play this game, and the smiles and the joy, and then there's a little reception afterwards, which everybody toasts the guys who have fallen. But the camaraderie was instant, Tom. And in the brotherhood, I came back from that visit. Now, this is, I think, summer 2016 or 17. I am fired up. How can we help these guys? They asked for nothing, okay, because that's the kind of guys that they're so humble. They were so appreciative of us going down, but they wouldn't ask for, anything.
Tickets or anything like that, yeah.
We're gonna try to help them whether they want it or not. They wanted it, but they wouldn't say. So we go down. I come home and I'm fired up. So I talked to Rick Middleton and Bob Sweeney and Bruce Crowder, Kenny Hodge Jr., Tim Sweeney. In the next summer, 7 of us go down. We bring our wives down, and they do it up even bigger for us. Which and then the Bruins got involved. Kerry Collins, the senior director of community relations. I told her the story. They're like, we want to get involved. And here's the cool thing. Virginia Beach sits outside of the radius of the Washington Capitals and the Carolina Hurricanes. So no NHL team supports them. So the Bruins, with our help, the alumni help, are kind of filling that vacuum.
Yeah.
So when I go down there now, there's people wearing Bruins gear, Bruins hats.
Yeah.
The first time when Rick and company came down, the Bruins funded this nice barbecue afterwards. And there's a parents and a couple of kids there, and the dad's clapping, and the son goes, but Dad, I thought we were Flyer fans. He goes to the kid, I'm standing far off to the east, not anymore. So, but because we were giving back to the community, and that means no disrespect to any of the other NHL teams. We just happen to be there to fill a void. So.
Remember the one meeting we had down there when I was down, and we were at iFly, Bob Bazzini's place, and Ryan, we go back and forth. And when you're on a board, I think it's important around a board to really give your opinion. There's no use being on the board just say like everybody else is saying. So we all give our speech, and then Ryan steps up, and he speaks like you said. 26 years he led platoon, and when he spoke, it was just like the room went silent. What he said, that was it. He was very polite, professional, but very assertive. This is his opinion, and it's not going to change. And when he's done talking, he goes, I think he's over.
Yeah.
I got the goosebumps too when he was talking. It was like, okay, that's it. It's over with. That's the decision.
Well, he was a SEAL team commander. He was in the Element Group. He worked at Warcom. I mean, he is the highest level you can get without becoming an admiral. Yeah. And he has such respect in his community. And he's still, like when we do these charity games now, we can talk about that in a minute. He goes through all the proper vetting protocols to make sure everything we do is approved by Naval Special Warfare, Warcom. We get their blessing to do the things we do. And then I'll segue real quick into this. So we played that game in 2019 where we integrated 6-7 SEAL guys. And that was the beginning of the Face-Off for Heroes pillar in the Warrior for Life Fund arsenal of services. 3 years ago, the first annual Nate Hardy Memorial Game happened up in Boston, Warrior Arena with the Bruins practice. Bunch of active duty retired SEALs came up, played the Bruins alumni, and they beat us. They beat us handily, okay?
Well,
now, this was at the tail end of COVID. There was nobody there, but we didn't expect to get beaten. They brought up 2 goalies that stood on their heads. I mean, they were phenomenal. And so let's look at the facts here. They're young for the most part. They're in excellent shape. A lot of these guys played high-level hockey, all right? Because that hockey mentality is very similar to a special forces mentality where you're going to go in when other guys might step back if you want. And I'm not equating the 2 jobs, but it's the same kind of mindset. So they come up and they beat us, and they are so happy. I mean, they're telling that story today still. So fast forward to last December, we don't want to lose again. So we recruit Kevin Miller, Zdeno Chara,
There you go.
Adam McQuaid, okay, Ray Bork, Andrew Alberts. So we had a defensive core of those guys plus me, five high-level players and Frank, plus some Chris Bork played, who just retired from Hershey. He's a former Bruin. Anyway, we took it to him pretty good. It was a great game. So now 2023 comes around. Okay, so I'm going to backtrack real quick to August. So we have all these cool things that go down in Virginia Beach. We have this cool game series that happens up in Boston. Naval Special Warfare and Navy SEAL Foundation said, hey, you need to do this on the West Coast too, because guys who don't know, the even number SEAL teams are in Virginia Beach, based out of Virginia Beach, and the odds are on Coronado, just south of San Diego. So this summer, we went out and played a game there. And it wasn't Bruin-centric, but we had Kevin Miller, myself, Andrew Alberts, Brian Allen from the Anaheim Ducks, Steve Hines, who was a King and a Duck, right? You know Hinesy? So we brought some NHL flavor there, and they pulled guys from the Coronado group, and they were fantastic. So it was the NHL guys and some East Coast team guys. They beat us. So now the guys who are organizing the game 2 weeks ago are going, okay, we have 2 pools of players to pick from. They picked the 5 best players from the West Coast, the 12 best players from the East Coast. If you were older or less talented, you got cut.
Oh, wow.
A couple of guys from Africa. They brought in one of their best goalies, because this is a rubber match now. Okay, right. So I'm trying to get Chara. I'm trying to get, Kevin Miller comes because he's now on the board now. He's a big part of Warrior for Life. So Kevin came. We're reaching out to Bergeron, reaching out to Krejci, reaching out to this guy, that guy, right? Bork. Nobody's available. But the last week before the game, Bergeron says, I will play.
I saw that.
So from the drop of the puck, we are in full NHL mode now. No fooling around. Usually in these alumni games, it's drop the puck and everybody's like, bye goalie, I'll see you after the game kind of thing, right? But we're playing our positions. We're supporting each other, back checking, moving up and down the ice, closing gaps. This game was 2-1. We have never had an alumni game with a total of 3 goals scored. Their goaltender, who I won't name, but he knows who he is, the active duty guy, faced almost 50 shots, and he was making save after save. So after the game, he's gritting, comes out, I said, nice job, Sheriff. He goes, I stopped Bergeron 5 times. He goes, but who's counting? He pauses. He goes, I am. And he goes, yes.
That's funny.
Bergie didn't score. He tried. And that served 2 things. One, having our alumni get to skate with Bergeron was a huge treat. He's a gentleman. He still can play. As a defenseman, Tom, you appreciate that when you have the puck and you look up and you know there's always somebody open, or one guy that's always going to be open. It was him every time.
I thought he was a fantastic player. One of the best I've seen, both ways. Yeah.
Both ways. And then just a consummate gentleman, and he played the game. And I'm going to show you here. So the trophy, which we thought we would be sending down to Virginia Beach, stayed with the Bruins alumni this year.
There you go. That's
this is neat, Artie silhouette.
Nice.
So this is going to be an ongoing series. And what's good about it, Tom, is it gets great coverage. This thing has grown organically. The Bruins get involved. Nesson comes down and does a big piece on it. We're in discussions with some other groups that you would recognize, but I can't mention right now, that are going to get involved in next year's game, and also the West Coast game, which is going to be an annual thing. So the integration of NHL level talent in NHL organizations helping veterans resonates. And so you mentioned the Warrior for Life. I've been on the board now for 5 years. I've been in sales for 35 or 40 years now. I used to do it in the summers when I was playing. This is the easiest thing I've ever sold. Telling this story about how hockey helps a very elite veteran community, or an active duty community, is easy because people want to give back. They want to help the military. And hockey people, hockey players, hockey community are the best at supporting, in my opinion, the military. They almost never say no. You give them a good cause, they'll jump into it if it's helping the military.
Yeah, definitely agree. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Well, I'm going to tell you, you've got a really interesting life. Right? Like, to go from, I didn't realize you played Division III hockey. So there's a lot of kids now, they have the dream of playing the National Hockey League, but if they don't get the Division I hockey league, well, it's just not going to happen. So I think your story is fantastic from that regard. And the stuff you're doing now, both with the Bruins Alumni and the money you're raising there, and with the Warrior for Life Fund, all great causes. And like you said, you still got a regular job to hold down too. So great job by you.
Thank you, Tom.
My pleasure. Hey, and thank you very much for coming on the show.
Well, Frank, do you ever still get out? I know you skate, but do you ever go out and throw the javelin at all?
You just get this answer.
My shoulder can barely throw a softball or a tennis ball. So I need operations on both, so it's not happening.
Fair enough.
All right, Frank. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We'll have you on again, too. You can show us
Thanks, guys. Thank you. And when we're promoting something down the road, I'll have to come on.
Yes,
absolutely.
Perfect. Excellent. All right, Frank. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Hey, Tom, that's great. That was a really great story with Frank Simonetti from the Bruins and the Bruins Alumni.
Yeah, he's good. Great storyteller, too. There, I didn't know he was that much of a storyteller.
Great storyteller.
Yeah.
And the work they're doing is incredible. Like, it really, I mean, he touched that at the end, but like, it's just really great what they're doing for the veterans, especially the Special Forces guys. It's really, it's pretty awesome, because...
Well, the alumni, too, the money they're raising there, some of the money they've raised for some great...
Yeah.
Like, I love the fact that they put together kind of a
deck
to show everybody how to do it.
Yeah, it's like a production Bible.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And they do it on their own in partnership with the Bruins, but not for the Bruins. Whereas you guys you work for the Rangers directly.
Yeah.
They're
so
just,
that's like Frank does a lot of work because we have the Rangers. They have a whole team of people that put events together to attend. Whereas in Frank's case, he puts it all together himself.
Yeah, it's a nonprofit that they're just doing it on their own, which is awesome. And I love the story of how they got the big whale. They got Bergeron to come play the game. Freshly retired to come in and be the man.
Imagine that for the guys, the Navy SEAL guys, or even just the alumni players themselves. Bergeron is such a good player.
Hall of Famer, no doubt, captain, Stanley Cup winner. What a great player.
Yeah, what a two-way player. He was unbelievable as a two-way player.
Absolutely.
What stuff the times he got hurt, like punctured lung and broken ribs, and still playing in the playoffs. Yeah.
And on top of that, he's known as a defensive guy and a leader, but he's also, I think he scored over 400 goals in the NHL. Yeah. So that's not nothing to sneeze at, That's more than Pierre LaRouche scored, who's a great goal scorer, So
that's great hair, too. You see the picture of him playing in the game. The hair is just perfect.
Great hair.
My hair is perfect, too.
No, it is. This is not the Brock Lesnar cut. It's. I don't know what this cut is called. This is because you don't look bald. You look like you have a little bit of fuzz on the top.
Yeah, it's tin. It's tin up there.
It's tin. Well, I just almost choked there as I laughed as I choked. But it looks like you're going for that look a little bit now. A little bit of fuzz going on top there.
Yeah, I gotta get rid of it. Yeah,
I'm going with Brock Lesnar. People know who that is. WWE champion. Yeah, he's big, strong.
I got shaved really bald. I get The Rock sometimes. So The Rock's father.
You've said this several times. I don't know. Maybe a little bit.
Some people think I look like The Rock. I'm not saying it, but I don't think.
Well, I don't think
look with me.
No, definitely not. But I was at an event with you at Fritz Dietl, the legendary barn, which is closing down. Fritz Dietl, New Jersey. It was purchased, and it's going to be knocked down, which is sad. But Tom was signing autographs for this one. The kid was probably about 10 or 11, and Tom signs the autograph, and the kid goes, "Are you Wayne Gretzky?"
The kid wants to talk to you.
No, probably he's a new player, so he did not.
I used to get when I was playing. I used to leave the garden, and somebody said, "Are you Don Maloney?"
Oh, I thought they would say, "Sir, where's the parking lot?"
Some of that, yeah.
Can you help me to my seat?
That's funny because I could leave the garden sometimes when I was playing. Nobody knew who I was. They'd walk right through the fans and everything.
Yeah, but there's also times when Wayne Gretzky left the garden and nobody knew who he was. Or Mark.
Yeah, I guess that's
too yours.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. But an actor walks out of a Broadway show, 1,000 people watch them, and then they go one block and nobody knows who they are. Yeah. And that's
doing that when I was in the agent business. As you know, I was for
22 years. Yes, I know.
I was representing Damon Langkow, and we were in an arbitration hearing, and so the arbitrator for the league or for the team, I think it was Phoenix at the time, started saying, well, because Damon wasn't really a big guy. So the arbitrator for the lawyer for the team has to kind of say negative things about Brian to kind of knock down his value. So he says, well, looking at you, you don't even look like a hockey player. The guy over there, and he points to me, he goes, he looks like a hockey player. And we go, well, I was. So, oh, that was, I'll tell you, we had an arbitration hearing. I think it was for Damon Langkow again. We went to arbitration like 3 years in a row. And they brought in Bobby Clark. And they wanted to compare. They wanted Bobby Clark to testify that what was he? Another player. I can't remember who it was. Played for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Small guy, kind of nasty player. Can't remember his name. So they wanted Bobby Clark to say that player was better than Damon Langkow. So they mustn't have compared Bobby Clark or whatever. He steps in and goes, "Nope, Damon Langkow is way better." And it was hilarious because it's like, okay, that's not what you were supposed to say.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I think people need to realize in arbitration cases, like your job as the team, from the team standpoint, is to shit on the player to bring his value down.
Yeah.
And the agent and player's job is to pump up their value as much as they can, usually by comparables. But like, what happens afterwards? Like, hey, no hard feelings, guy. It's just business.
Well, it got down to the point. Darcy Tucker was the player for Toronto. That things
Gotcha.
I got down to the point where you would see from the arbitrators, the teams would try that, to cut down the player a little bit. But the arbitrator would really go by the numbers. He'd look in comparables and say, okay, this player's got 20 goals. My player's got 20 goals. He's making $2 million. Well, he should get $2 million.
Easy.
So all that other fluff about saying bad things about the player, really, it just got so refined that teams would still try to do it, but it really didn't work at all.
So then did it become like real estate? We just give them like 4 comps and they say, okay, these are the numbers. This is what this guy got. That's what this house went for. So we get this whole thing.
Gotcha. And there's always a range there, and then you're in the middle of the range. You pretty much know once you go to arbitration is probably where it's going to be.
Right.
And it gets to the point where usually there's around 25 to 35 players that file for arbitration, and normally only about 10 of them ultimately go. 10% ultimately go to arbitration. There's
sure.
that many.
So yeah, you get cut off. Let me just go back a second. So let's talk about Bobby Clark, because Bobby Clark, for those who, I can't believe anybody listening to this show wouldn't know, but he was Messier before Messier. He was that ultimate leader. That guy would do anything, break a Russian's leg in the Summit Series,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But how was he as a front office person? Was he just as competitive?
Oh, yeah, totally. I had Brian Boucher as a client, and he had a really good year with the Flyers. They'd gone on a run in the playoffs. He was just finishing his first contract. So I was going down there. Mr. Schneider, who was still alive at the point, obviously, he was the owner of the team. And so I was going to meet with him in his office, and Bobby Clark was going to be there. Now, I'm feeling, I've been an agent for a while, so I'm feeling pretty confident about myself, my negotiating skills and everything. And so they made an offer. I said, well, it's just really not enough. And I gave my argument why it wasn't enough and everything like that. And Bobby Clark lost his mind. I think he thought he was going, I think he thought he was going to intimidate me. You're just being stubborn. And he gets red in the face and he's yelling and everything. And Mr. Snyder and I are both looking at each other like, what is this all about?
Wait, he's getting in your face in the meeting?
Yeah.
Wow.
He really wasn't like physically like trying to tell you, which is like he was trying to embarrass me or saying that I was wrong, that I'm stupid with money.
Yeah.
I said, so I said to him, he says, "Are you done?" And he calms down right away. He goes, "Yeah, I'm done." We went back to negotiating. So he had that fire in him still.
Still had that.
In fact, one of the things when you first start being an agent, you're kind of worried, like you send out a contract, you're asking for too much, like am I really in the range? So I sent out, and it was a small contract too. It was a guy that was kind of more of a minor leaguer, and sent it to Bobby Clark. And of course, he calls me up and he's ripping in me. You're ridiculous. This is way off. And I was, at that point, I just got started. And I was like, really? I guess I really overshot this thing. And I thought, and then you learn later on. It's just they won't do it after a while once you've been an agent for a while. But when you first become the agent,
so he's going to show you who's who at that point.
Yeah, I had I should say his name. That's another GM.
Yes, you
Brian Burke.
Okay,
great guy. I was negotiating with him he was assistant GM in Vancouver, and negotiated with him. I asked for a $25,000 signing bonus. He calls me back. He says,
"Tom." Who's that for? Which player?
As for Jason Fitzsimmons, a goaltender, playing for Moose Shop. That was my first client, I think. And so I asked for $25,000 signing bonus, and Brian Burke calls me up and goes, "Tom, it should be 40. I'll give you 40. I didn't ask for enough, and he corrected it. He was really good that way. Like when I was there, I think more because I was a former player. He really kind of, like, I saw him at games a few times. He'd sit with me in the stands and talk about strategies, negotiating, all that kind of stuff. He was excellent.
Yeah, well, aside from the fact that you're a height bully and a weight bully, I mean, you have a great rep in the hockey world. You're very respected because you're just, genuine article of what you see.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I really, when I became an agent, I sat down with myself and I said, okay, how am I going to be? Because I knew some of these other agents are always lying.
What did yourself say back?
Yeah. I actually, it's funny because you're kind of, you could say I'm going to be like everybody else, like all the other agents. So I was going to be, there still was some good guys there too, but I was going to be different. I wanted to have character, same way as I was as a player.
Yep.
And it really paid off for me too. There were some times that I lost out on players because I had one player I would have had. So the year I had Brian Berard as first overall pick, Wade Redden was his second overall pick. And they had told me that he was going to go with me as well.
Wow.
But his coach was Brad McCrimmon. No, Kelly McCrimmon in Brandon.
Sure.
And so he was good friends with another agent, is Donnie Meehan, who was in the company. And once they found out that he was going to go with me, they called him in the office and said, no, you're going with Donnie Meehan.
Yeah.
Or else I would have had the first 2 picks in the draft. And another year, the next year, I would have the first overall pick in the draft again. It was Chris Phillips with Ottawa. And so the same thing, they said, okay, yeah, we're going with you. And then another agent came along and bought him a car.
Oh, gee. So you're not slimy like that. And I know, I mean, you're not a schmoozer. I mean, obviously we're doing a podcast and you're talking a lot, but you're not really a bullshitter. You're genuine.
That was, like Brian Berard, he didn't go with me at first. He went with another agent who got in some trouble financially or something. And then he came back to me, and Mrs. Berard said that. She said, the reason one of the big reasons was we called you and said, listen, I'd love meeting you, but we're going to go with this other agent. And the way I handled it, she said, they really pressed them, so they came back to me. And I've had that happen a few times. Yeah, where
you took rejection well. You weren't like, okay, go fuck yourself. You were like, okay, that's fine. Best of luck and all that.
Yeah. We'll see you down the road. Best of luck. Yeah. I'm here for if you need me or stuff like that. So it's
great.
Yeah, and then there's been times, like I told you the story too, where we negotiated contracts where you have to prove to that general manager that there's interest in your client.
That's right.
And Doug Armstrong in St. Louis, Ryan Johnson was a player. He says, wait, have you got interest in him? I said, yeah, well, we've got 3 teams. We're talking to him. I'd like to tell you we're about to sign a contract. We're not, but we're talking. And he goes, Tom, you know what? You've never lied to me. And because of that, I believe what you're saying. And I realized at the time when he said that, I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Because they all lie, right? They all pump up their interest. Sure.
Yeah. It's just, there's some guys, that's funny. Like some guys that are very successful too. The way they talk, it's just like, the stuff they say to players is just like, that's just not true. But, players are young. A lot of times the families are inexperienced in the business world. So,
well, when people think of agents, they think of like Ari Gold from Entourage or like Jerry Maguire. Yeah. But they don't think of Tom Lalo, stay-at-home defenseman, who's just steady, honest guy. So
totally. And that's why I got hired by IMG too, with Mike Barnett, who was running the hockey division with IMG. We've known each other from LA. He represented Wayne Gretzky, and he'd see me out in Western Canada all the time. And he says, Tom, your work ethic is just unbelievable. You come and work with us. They're all paid. I was living in Motel 6s, and I'd been gone for 10 days up in Western Canada. They're all paid off.
Nice. Yeah, look, hard work, honesty pays off for some people. But good thing you're hyper, because Mike Barnett's not a very big guy. So you didn't really bully him, did you?
I don't think I ever bullied. He was a bully. He could sell. He'd love to sell. I was going through a divorce, and we were up in Kamloops at the Memorial Cup. And we went into this little trinket store, and he talked me into buying like $200 worth of little trinkets for my wife that I was divorcing. I'm walking out there, and I said, what just happened? He's dying laughing because it was fun to him. He loved to negotiate. Yeah.
Nice. Well, listen, that was a great episode with Frank Simonetti. Hopefully you'll do more stuff with him in the future, more events. I know that you played them a few years ago, but we're just doing great work, great stories, great guy, Boston guy. And it was an excellent episode. First guy we had on it was the, what did he throw, the javelin? Javelin thrower. That's the last guy we ever had on that throws the javelin. Probably, unless we get the guy from Revenge of the Nerds who threw Lamar. I don't know if did you watch movies back then or no? No. I think do your homework. It's good. John Wayne wasn't in it, so I'll show you the video. It's classic. But that was great. And if you like what you're hearing on the show, and people do, because we have listeners now from Poland, from Romania, from Hungary, it's Croatia. We would find out who it is in Romania. Listen, if you're listening to this show and we want to know, we want to hear from you, send us an email, fullchangepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. We'd love a review on Apple if you do that, and we'd love for you to share, download this page, spread it around, talk to everybody. And Tom can come to your event. He can speak, and he can do impressions and sing and pick on small people. He can do all that stuff. So again, if you want to get Tom at your event, fullchangepodcast@gmail.com. And thanks for listening to our show. We'd love to hear from you guys. Great job, everybody. See you soon. All right, Grasshoppers. Thank you for listening. We had a fantastic show. We'll see you next time.